This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is brought to you by The Information. Tired of reading news stories with catchy headlines but no substance? Check out The Information. The Information is a publication that breaks the most important news and trends about technology, and they've published hundreds of stories on Uber, Snap, Facebook, and more. For access to high-quality journalism, try The Information. Go to theinformation.com/test to sign up for The Information's free weekly newsletter and get 5 free days of their afternoon tech briefing. Again, that's theinformation.com/test.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, July 26th, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Good name for a show.
You're like grooving in a trance. Like,
You know, a little behind the scenes, I may have told this story before. We are on our 400th and,
58th?
59th episode.
My
Oh, we're
goodness.
closing in. A year from now, we'll be at episode 500. But before there even was episode 1, Will and I were on AOL Instant Messenger chatting. And we're starting a website, Tested.com. And we got to do a podcast. We had done the Maximum PC podcast for years before that.
Which I produced.
Which Jeremy produced wonderfully. And he's producing it, doing a great job doing audio mixing today. So many years later, 8 years later. And Will's like, what's a good name for this podcast? And we had two choices. And it came down to, this is only a test, or this is not a test.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, right.
this is not a test. It does not set the right tone.
That's what I said.
I think This Is Only Test frees us to make mistakes
Exactly.
and be
A
normal.
little more lighthearted.
And we do that every
think-
week for you.
I think we made the right choice 8 years ago. And so 8 years later, let's start number 459 with...
Top story this week.
Hold the presses. Before we get to our actual top story this week, we're going to start with another segment. It's actually a moment of science.
I'm
right.
not reading the show notes.
No, sorry.
We're doing a moment of science at the top of the show, not because you guys love science, right? You guys big fans of science out there, and because we are under constraints of temperature and the slowing, the eventual heat death of the universe.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, there was a discussion about Icy versus Slurpees on this show.
Yeah.
And basically a challenge was put out, and discussion happened on Twitter that basically indicated that Ices and Slurpees were the same. They shared the same
Someone
name.
posited.
Exactly.
Genetic family history. So today, this morning, I went to get a Slurpee and an Icy from an Icy branded machine. So these are those brand names.
Wait. So
I got the same flavor.
okay.
And we're going to taste test them.
What is
And-
the flavor?
We got blue raspberry because
Yeah.
out of the 7 machines in the 7-Eleven, it was the only one that was working.
And that's Slurpee.
That's Slurpee.
7 and Ices, you most commonly find them in movie theaters.
No,
Sure.
that's slushy.
No. Ices are found commonly in movie theaters.
Ices are the ones with the polar bear
We have
and the
slushies
red
here at
and blue
Cinemark.
stripe.
Cinemark definitely has slushies.
Oh. Well, AMC, I think, has Ices.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Well, we're not going. We're going just slushy and... Or we're just going icy and Slurpee. No slushy.
Right.
So I have 2 different devices here, and we have straws, and we're going to taste
We're going to
test.
taste test. We're going to drink on podcast. Let me crinkle this straw packaging in front of the
We're
microphone.
just
so you know
going to
what's
spoon
happening.
it, right?
No, we can...
Now,
edible
this,
beverage.
This straw itself is a feat of icy technology. All right. With the scoop at the bottom for those of you not watching the video.
Icy, Slurpee.
Hold on, I need
I
the other
haven't
one.
had the one.
I need B.
I haven't had A.
Yep.
How did you keep these cold enough between 7-Eleven and here?
Cooler stuffed with a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's some sautéed frozen vegetables in there.
Dry ice.
No, I couldn't find dry ice this morning.
Am I right? Icy?
Well, hold
Slushy?
on.
Okay, sorry.
First of all, which one's better?
The icy.
Then give me that one again. Give me the green. I guess they're the exact same. I thought you were using different color tape.
Are they the same?
They're not the same.
They're not the same at all.
No, I
No.
think I would
So
believe.
let's
Hold
put
on.
this to rest.
Wait. They're one. Yeah, correct.
Well.
But we are also not getting this right from the tap.
Hey, within about 20 minutes, though.
But if you're going to put it in a cooler, like especially if you're going to use something like dry ice, that's going to actually affect the consistency a little bit.
Fine. This
But-
is the best we could do
Okay.
without buying a $1,000 icy machine
Or
and putting it
taking
into the office.
our podcast equipment to a movie theater and going up to the icy machine.
Look, according to Wikipedia, the Icy Company was licensed by Slurpee in 1965.
Oh, so there's truth to this.
Since then, they've diverged. They've gone their own directions in life.
Oh, okay. I'm going to say this one is the better one.
the
this
Icy.
one.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't know which one this is,
Okay.
but this is the better
That,
one.
Do you agree, Jeremy, that that's the better one as well?
I do.
Yeah, I think we all agree that's the better one. The other one is just like icy.
So I'm going
it has
to
more ice in it.
I'm going to remove the paper towel.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
people, the better one is indeed what? It's the Slurpee. The better one is the Slurpee.
Yeah.
Remove that. Remove
Well,
that.
that's just a generic container.
Wow. If
I'm quite surprised.
so, this is also interesting. The Icy is in a fully clear plastic cup that we got,
Yeah.
and you can see that in the 20 minutes that you brought it here, it's separated,
Yeah, it did.
and all the flavor went to the bottom, all the concentrate, and so it demands more mixing up. So this is why when you see the Icy machines, they're constantly being churned.
I would like to change my decision.
You
No.
can't do that. You're biased now.
I like the Icy. It's more like a like a frozen beverage, you know, where like a frozen ice or whatever it's called.
Kishore, where's the science?
Oh, there's no science here. I just want to have some Slurpees in the morning.
What do you think is the actual difference in terms of how one, first of all, how is this made?
I mean, for everything that we're talking about here in terms of like the controls and stuff, like this comes down to like how long it's been sitting in the machine churning and like how cold it is and how many people have made a drink from it in the past couple of hours. All of that affects the consistency of the actual device itself. I mean, the whole idea behind Slurpees is that, you know, you have a mix of ice that's like really smally kind of suspended. There's some trapped gas in there, so it gives it that foamy texture to it. And I think clearly the Icy is also supposed to do that to a certain extent, and it's just not maintained it. You have to, it's really about the structure, keeping that structure together.
foaminess.
It's that texture that really makes the Icy.
And if it's too cold, then it gets too rock-like and not as foamy. I always grew up with the Coke flavored ices, and those are my favorite. But recently, I don't like them anymore because they're not carbonated. It's like yes, it's refreshing, but I need that carbonation. All right, so we've done the experiment. It turns out they're different, and we like the Slurpees more.
I like the Icy more.
Jeremy has gone back on
Well,
his
you
his
can have
choice.
that Icy, pass down the Slurpee.
Top story this week.
So we're
Shave ice. That's what I was trying to think of.
Ah,
It's more,
yeah.
Icy's more like a shave ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's all about expectations too.
Yep.
If you know you're getting a shaved ice and it's more like a shaved ice, then it's gonna be great. If you think you're getting an icy and you get shaved ice, it's not gonna be great. We are recording this early this week because we are not only returning from travel, but parts of this podcast, members of this podcast, are embarking on travel very soon. Jeremy, you're gonna be on the other side of the country this week.
I am. I'm going to Pittsburgh, home of Heinz Ketchup and Kishore Hari.
Yes.
I will be competing in the world's biggest pinball tournament, Pinburgh, 2018. I guess this is my fourth year going, and I really look forward to it. It's like pinball camp. 20 of us from the Bay Area, maybe more, go out there every year.
Wow.
Fly out there, get
How
some hotel
serious
rooms.
is this for you? Like, are you
For me?
ultra competitive about those?
No, it's really serious for like 10 people. There's 800 people in this competition, and everyone just goes to have a good time.
So it's like Beta Breakers. You know, there's like the
Yeah.
the 5 people who are going to run for the trophy, and then everyone else just wants to go in costume.
Exactly.
You gonna bring T-shirts? You guys have a Bay Area rep T-shirt?
We have a flag that we put at a table, we claim, and we sit at the table.
What is the Bay Area pun
It's
for pinball?
Oh, there isn't one.
Oh, it's just
I don't think so.
NorCal Pinball League.
Yeah, I mean, there
Something
isn't.
like that?
I don't know if there probably is one called that. Our flag is the NorCal flag.
Oh, okay.
Besides competing in tournament play, are there any games that you're really looking forward to playing?
No. I mean, they have so many. It's just like I just look forward to playing new games that I've never played before. But I will say that San Francisco's own Matt Henry of Free Gold Watch designed this year's T-shirt for
The official Pinburg T-shirt.
Pinburg.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, that's very cool. And this weekend, while there is one pinball convention in the East Coast, there will be a classic arcade and pinball convention on the West Coast as well. Competing pinball events. This is nuts. We've reached peak pinball.
It's all happening.
California Extreme is this weekend, and much of the tested team will be there as well, minus Jeremy, unfortunately. You've chosen the bigger, the leveled up event. But if you're in the Bay Area and you can make it down to Santa Clara, you can say hi to us and play some pinball, play some classic arcade games.
And maybe something else.
And maybe something else that we're not ready to announce yet.
Haha.
Exciting. But I just got back from Comic-Con. I got back yesterday, recording this on Tuesday. And spent the past week, the last time I was in this office, I was rushing to record this podcast before jumping on a plane to Comic-Con. And the first time in the office, the very first thing I'm doing is recording a podcast.
Got to keep it
Bookending
consistent.
Comic-Con with This Is Only a Test. Comic-Con was good. Comic-Con was 5 days of madness, 5 days of pop culture, 5 days of crowds and costumes and collectibles and other things that start with C.
I heard it was much more mellow this year than in years past.
That is so true. And we talked a little bit about that with Adam and Simone this year. And I'm not sure. I think overall I saw fewer people dressed up, more people just walking in normal clothes, even on the busy days, even on Friday, even on Saturday. And it may be because of the traffic. They close off one of the big streets right in front of Comic-Con to traffic so people could walk out and not have to worry about cars, and so that could have chilled things a bit. Weather was fantastic. It stayed in the high 70s, very low 80s, so it wasn't like blistering heat down in San Diego. And overall, just felt like, and Marvel, Marvel wasn't there was no giant Marvel panel to show off anything from Infinity War Part 2, whatever they're going to call it, or Captain Marvel. So it was pretty chill.
No real Star Wars news.
No, yeah, exactly.
There was Clone Wars.
Yes, that's true. So,
but that's about it.
Let's talk about some of the news. We'll I guess we could talk about the trailers and stuff in pop culture news.
No, we can talk about it in this segment. We'll get down to it in a couple minutes. But I want to hear about the first thing I saw from Tested out of Comic-Con was the Leica exhibit. That was the first video I saw.
Yes.
It looked amazing.
The very first event we went to last Wednesday night was Leica Live. This is the second year they did this. We had talked about being hyped about this, and it was even better than I think we could have ever expected. Leica Production Studios, it's their 10-year anniversary as well. Coraline came out 10 years ago, and they rented out a big venue in downtown San Diego to bring down not only some of the puppets and even some of the sets at 6 scale, like the Coraline house they actually brought down, but also recreated part of their production studio, which I thought was really brilliant. They have a big model making shop, and then they have also filming sets, and then they brought and built these versions of those and had their artists, had their modelers, had their animators give little seminars to attendees and show them, very hands-on, show them how their puppets are made and how they animated them. And it was just wonderful. We were there for like 3 hours just talking with the Leica people and getting a real good close look at some of their puppets.
There's a puppet riding a moped with working lights.
Oh, the electronics. So they had a whole wall of just like props, right, behind glass props from the films. And if you search on Google, there's actually a little mini documentary where they go into what it took for them to make a lamp, right, and then all the painstaking effort to make a working little electronic lamp at small 1/6 scale for filming, because it's a practical light, it's a practical prop. And then they pull back the camera at the end of this mini doc, and you see that not only did they make the lamp, they made everything in that room, from the bookshelves to the tables to the chairs to the ceiling lights, and they do that for every single set. So for this display, they had a wall just full of everyday items, like refrigerators, television, stylized, of course, for their films, but many of them with working displays and working lights and even moving parts, motion controlled parts. Really, really cool. That prop wall, it was like, if you're into miniatures, it was astounding. And then in the video, I chatted with one of the animators, Gabe, and they had a whole setup from Kubo into Two Strings, in which he talked about how he animated one of the sequences of Kubo running, and how they green screen out some of the rods they use, and how when he's animating, he uses a reference of himself. So he runs in a video, and then he looks frame by frame to see how that could match up with the shot that he's supposed to do and how many frames he needs in that shot. And then, but he doesn't do the faces. The face is already animated by someone else, so he matches his frame by frame animation and swaps in from what's essentially a sorting box of heads that have numbers written behind each face, so he can match his running animation to the face and film it all at once. It was really, really awesome stuff.
I'm still just stunned at how painstaking the work is for this. And when I watched Kubo, it's still worth it.
Yeah,
it pays off. Like,
animation is painstaking, but this illustrates the painstaking nature of animation in a way that is so clear to anybody, because it brings it to the real world.
Yeah,
I'm really glad they did that exhibit. I hope they make it a traveling exhibit or do it more.
And they showed a little bit of, well, they had the one of the sets and one of the characters from their upcoming film, Missing Link. It was a fun event. They ran throughout the entire week. People could walk in. I know it was packed. Every time we walked by it, there were lines outside. So I hope it sounds like a lot of people got to see it.
All right, we're burying the lead, though, because our boy Norm actually got his cosplay on this weekend with a whole neighborhood of Totoros.
Yeah, this was participating in Adam's big meetup this year on Saturday morning at the Nerdist house. Nerdist graciously let us use their space for this, but we had 11 people come together as Totoros of all shapes and sizes, and many of them influenced by Adam's Totoro, but not all of them built them to Adam's spec, so it was definitely their own takes on Totoro, and it was like a class picture. Like, we all got together and stood on a stage, and 11 of us, and then we all kind of did a little shuffle dance, and people came by and took photos.
So you guys didn't do a walk together?
No, some of the Totoros did after the meetup, go on the streets and walk through the streets, and bless them, bearing the heat and the weight of those costumes. But I wouldn't get a chance in Adam's costume to do a full walk.
What was your experience in a Totoro that you bought?
It was really hot in there. We were rushed for time, and so I didn't get a chance to turn on the fans, and so I was sweating. I was also recovering from a little bit of the flu the night before, so I had a little bit of the chills. Actually, the Totoro was really good for that, because it was just like a sauna. I was just getting really warm.
My favorite from the pictures is Chewbacca Totoro.
Oh, that was my favorite as well. This was... It was so... it almost looked like a giant porg in some ways.
With like bigger, more just hair.
But it's definitely recognizable as Chewbacca. And Chewbacca color stylings. Why is there a brown Totoro over there? And it was...
And big bandolier.
Bandolier. Chutoro? I don't know what the combination is for that. But thank you for everyone who came by and participated. We'll have a video of that, I think, in just about a week's time.
Did you see Mark Hamill as Orange Vader?
No.
You saw the photos of it?
No. Oh. I saw Mark Hamill went as a stormtrooper, right?
Yeah. No, a Darth Vader with Trump hair and an orange mask.
That was Mark Hamill?
Did you see him?
No.
Okay. Yes, that was Mark Hamill.
Oh.
But apparently a lot of people shot photos of him, having no idea.
A true incognito.
Yeah, exactly.
This whole idea of incognito that Adams, helped kick off, I think has really taken root. Speaking of, how was it? How was the incognito?
The incognito was, I think, highly successful in that people didn't recognize the costume. It was a deep cut. Adam talked about it in Still Entitled, and we have a build video actually of him making this costume. But it's a very personal costume because it's the first pressure suit / space suit that Wiley Post, famed aviator, made back in 1935.
I thought it was a diver's suit.
It's heavily inspired by, it's a pressure suit
Yeah.
with a bladder inside, and went up to 45,000 feet or so, and Adam built that in a little over 2 days. Not exactly a 1-day build.
Did he?
But everything from scratch.
Did he get just as many people coming up to him guessing it was Adam?
Several people did.
Some,
yeah.
okay.
So I would say maybe like half a dozen people did.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. Yeah. So that was pretty successful. In terms of other like quote unquote activations, to pull a word from last week's podcast, I went to the Star Trek Discovery exhibit right across the street from Like Alive. They had costumes from Star Trek Discovery that were mirror universe only. So it was a mirror universe exhibit, and it was really cool. I got to see, like, I don't know if you guys haven't finished Star Trek Discovery, right?
No, I finished.
Okay. But they had a lot of the great, really sparkly mirror universe costumes.
Oh, that's cool.
Like the Emperor ones.
Actually, I think the costume design in Discovery is really fantastic, especially some of the like gold inlays on just their regular costume.
And then Adam did his panel, and at the panel we revealed a project that we had been working on.
This is a big deal.
Yeah. At least internally for us, it's something that we're super excited for because we could show the world a short film that we made with Weta Workshop.
What?
Yes, yeah. And back in January when we were there, Adam came up with the great idea of trying to make a short film with Weta Workshop in just 6 days, essentially with a story outline and a few phone calls ahead of time to make sure they were okay with it. We came in on the first day and jumped right into production and developed the story, figured out our location, choreographed an action sequence, and it's not super long film. It's only 2.5 minutes, but it all came together heavily inspired aesthetically by John Borman's Excalibur. Adam is wearing his Excalibur armor, and he fights a monster. And the whole thing has a nice cameo at the end. It's a little bit of a gag, and then
It's a little gory.
We intentionally went for the gore. Yeah.
I'm just warning people.
But it's farcical. It's the gory bit I think was
I haven't
part
seen
of the show.
the final cut. Is it like Black Knight gory? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah. I think a little bit behind the curtain. This thing, even though we shot it in January and had been working on it, Joey did the editing on it, and Joey at some point will talk about his process of going through this Red Dragon footage, this 5K footage, and then his color grading to make it look like Excalibur a little bit in terms of the soft focus and a lot of that shininess. The music for this short film actually came to us last week. So it was scored by Michael Giacchino.
What?
Who scored The Incredibles, Incredibles 2, Star Wars Rogue
And,
One,
like,
Doctor Strange.
100 other films.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he had a cut to work.
He had a cut to work with, and he got us the score. And the film was named half an hour before the panel in which we showed it.
What is the name?
The name is A Farewell to Arms,
Very nice.
and you'll have to watch the short film.
I think I get it already.
Yeah, there you go. Ben Acker of Throwing Adventure Hour came up with that name, and thanks Ben, because he really saved the day. It was a clutch move on his
That's
part.
pretty funny. Did you show the whole thing at
We
the
did.
panel?
We showed it the whole thing at the panel. Actually, by the time this podcast comes out on Thursday, it will be on YouTube. So if you don't subscribe to the YouTube channel, go check it out on YouTube, and you can watch the whole short film. The whole making of is a series that we did that's rolling out. The first episode's out already, and over the next month and a half, you'll see the rest of how this was made.
Is the making of premium?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's brought to you by Tested Premium members.
Nice. He also showed a trailer for Mythbusters Jr.
Yeah. Yes. The first time he had seen with this footage, not at the panel, but this footage was the first time he had seen cut footage from the show, and it feels like MythBusters. With
Oh,
a
cool.
Different spin, of course, but anyone missing Adam being on MythBusters should be very happy.
I think we got little snippets of tastes of the personalities of the kids, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah,
Because I think they're going to drive the show.
totally.
Unlike, it's not Adam's show per se.
Yeah, they're the new MythBusters.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically my experience at Comic-Con. I got to see a lot of
Did you go to
friends.
any other kind of stuff? Did you do any VR stuff?
No, Ready Player One had an activation. I didn't go to that, and there was VR, light VR here and there. Like the really big things you want to talk about, like people who spent money on things, were Amazon spent a ton of money on their Jack Ryan show. Like they built out what looked like even a Disneyland in Orlando, Disney World, where there's an Indiana Jones stage show.
Yeah.
Right, it looked like they built one of those for Jack Ryan, like a 2-story building
At Comic-Con?
At Comic-Con
What?
outside.
That's crazy.
Yeah, with like a car that was in a lake and a helicopter, a fake helicopter on top of this makeshift building that was half exposed. If you're fans of The Good Place, they also recreated The Good Place, a walled Good Place where people could wait in line and get in and have frozen yogurt.
My favorite thing is during the Good Place panel, somebody cosplaying as Janet went up to ask a question, and she was accompanied by her friend, who is, or it might have been her twin, who was playing Bad Janet. And so they're at the mic, and it was just the funniest scene ever.
Those kind of fan interactions, I think, are the things that make Comic-Con Comic-Con. Like when the fans get really creative, not only in celebrating the fandom, but then get to interact with the creators and the actors who get to realize how much their work means to some people.
Did you have that experience yourself? Did anyone come up to you and say they like tested?
Plenty of people came up to me and said they liked Tested.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's great. Got to chat with a bunch of people who liked the stuff and couldn't wait to see the content, and which will be rolling out over the next week and a half.
Let's talk about the stuff that came out at Comic-Con.
Yeah, let's transition into some pop culture news because that's what it was all about.
Boom. Okay.
So we're going to start off with the biggest piece of pop culture news, which happened during Comic-Con, but not at Comic-Con. And that is Disney's firing of James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as a director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They haven't said whether the script that he just finished as writer of that would still be used, but he's no longer directing the film. Caught everyone off guard. I don't know if people had fallen, if this is something that built up, but news broke on this on Friday, and it turns out that people had dug up old tweets of his from years ago, clearly offensive tweets that he posted, as he said, in as bad taste, jokes in poor taste, attempts at humor. And they were latched onto by certain groups of people, spread around, and Disney caught wind of it, and their decision was to sever ties, just as they did with Roseanne and her show.
It was quick too, because by all measures, it seemed like James Gunn was trying to delete those tweets like the night before he got dismissed. So this seems like it was very quickly moving.
I mean, it's so recent that we don't know exactly how this unfolded, but the reporting indicates that it was a targeted kind of a hit job almost, in that they went through his old tweets looking for things to share and to find offense, and then propagated the examples that they thought would have the biggest effect, and it did have the biggest effect because Disney took action. And I don't know if this is a zero tolerance policy on Disney's part, or if they're doing this if it feels like a gimme for being, maybe it's precedent for what they did with Roseanne. But since then, Dan Harmon, who's has left Twitter. And he's had old tweets pulled up and old things he's shared, spoof videos that he's made, and a lot of people who have been vocal politically celebrities and entertainers who've been vocal. Even Patton Oswalt has had old tweets pulled up, except out of context tweets. In that case, intentionally out of context tweets pulled out of context, unsurprisingly, and it's really unsettling.
Yeah, and the tweets that got pulled up, I don't know if you guys have read them, certainly had language that was in poor taste. It's hard to evaluate the context of them because of the way this whole thing went down. So it's hard not just on that level, it's hard not to feel anything except like, wow, this was a big mistake by James Gunn. And it wasn't like he was a kid when he did this, which has happened a lot to athletes. Like they made tweets when they're 13 or something. He was like 40 when he did this.
Right.
So I don't have a ton of sympathy for him from that perspective. But the fact that this was clearly like targeted feels weird to me. And this weaponization of what you said out of context, it's kind of scary.
Well, especially considering the platform. Twitter is the easiest place to take things out of context because by design, the platform doesn't give you a lot of room to give context. And the way it's used by many people, it's not taken seriously as a publishing platform, but it is. I mean, it is a document of record, and people use it as a way to have, there's that line between using Twitter as a messaging platform, in which many people do, a one-to-many broadcast messaging platform, but it also is putting your words to print.
I will say that I've heard a lot of the fans say bring him back or fighting for him to come back because Guardians won't be the same. I don't know if I buy that. I think there are a lot of talented directors and writers out there, and even though I love the first two Guardians movies, I don't think that they can't refine that magic with somebody else.
I hope they use the script, and I'm a little disappointed that the only member of the cast who's really, really come forward in defense of him is Dave Bautista, and David's
his brother.
Awesome, and yes, of course. But you had these very kind of nebulous tweets from Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana that
I wonder if they're just under orders.
Oh, that sucks.
What do you mean?
Like
by publicists,
they've
right?
been given directives either by publicists or by Disney itself, being like, don't comment on this in any significant way.
Well, the director commented on himself. He said, my sense of humor used to be a lot more crude, and I used to say things like this, and I don't anymore. And I've changed, and I understand that those tweets were, were not polite things to say. And it's weird to me that he would be fired for something that he did so long ago. If you're hired for a job, and this stuff is out there, the people who are hiring you have a responsibility to do due diligence and research and find out who you are.
And guess what? They've made 2 movies with him.
Exactly.
They've lived with him intimately for 2 years in his head and his work, the way he works with people, and haven't had any problems with it. And I think that his brother Sean Gunn's statements about it are the best in that it talks about, if you look at the films are a reflection of his own James Gunn's growth as a person, and the evidence should be in the work. And that's why I'm also disappointed that his coworkers and collaborators haven't come to his defense, because they're the people who can really speak and give context to who James Gunn is, way more so than 140 characters from several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate climate.
Yeah. So let's talk about trailers, though. Let's get on to some fun stuff. Trailers that were unveiled at Comic-Con. Comic-Con is a big place to debut footage from upcoming movies and TV shows. Wonder Woman had some footage. We're not going to see that for a long time. But the stuff that was released online that we got to see, like the joke is at Comic-Con, you go home to find out what was shown at Comic-Con. And so that's what I did. Went home and watched the trailers because I didn't get to see any of them there. We had, from DC, the first Aquaman trailer. What do you guys think?
C+ maybe.
What?
I thought elements looked great. I thought the costuming, especially Mira's costume,
was
looks pretty incredible. I thought the CG around Orm especially did not look good. I thought some of the CG in the water seemed just. I understand they're trying to create this sort of wavy effect.
Who's Orm?
Orm is Aquaman's half brother. who is fighting for control of Atlantis. And this is not a spoiler. This is, clearly talked about in the trailer. It's a much campier version of Aquaman. Like Jason Momoa's making jokes.
Yes. I mean, it's the characterization of Aquaman that Jason Momoa brought in the Justice League film. And
this takes place after Justice League?
This takes place after Justice League. So this is the backstory, and I think a lot of that kind of one-lining quips and his nonchalant attitude that you saw in Justice League is going to be the character-defining traits of this Aquaman. And the director, James Wan, said that he wants it to be kind of Game of Thrones-like. And I think there's a huge opportunity to do some really creative visuals, it being set underwater. The little glimpse that we got in Justice League of even Mera interacting with Aquaman, and the reports are that some of that footage that we saw of Aquaman in Justice League was actually early footage from the movie that was pulled into Justice League when they were doing the re-edits.
That's crazy.
I think
just reminds you of how bad Justice League was.
Well, the production, the problem with production, yes, the long documented for sure. But I think that the water stuff could be super, super cool. And let's not forget, Aquaman was a joke.
The water
like
stuff.
2 years ago.
Totally.
3 years ago.
It feels a little like George Lucas got his hand on it, though, because when you look at some of the battle scenes underwater, it's like, how many fish can we fit in this frame?
Yeah.
There are sharks with armor on them. People riding armored sharks. Mm-hmm. And if you go in the film and you're not cool with the idea of underwater civilizations riding armored sharks, then that's not a movie for you. But if you can lead in that and say,
it's a little Gungan for me, just a little.
Wow. I will say the one thing that looks great is Black Manta.
Manta looks amazing.
The costume looks amazing, and if they make the good noise when he shoots his...
Yeah. I can't wait. I think it's going to be fun. And I think that's what DC movies needed. And
DC movies definitely need to lighten up, for sure, but I'm not holding my breath.
And if you don't think... hold your breath, go beyond that. No, very nice, very nice. Yeah.
I've been waiting like 4 minutes for that joke.
One DC movie that really looks like nothing but fun is Shazam.
This is the first DC movie I'm excited about.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Shazam, DC's Captain Marvel. And so 2 Captain Marvel movies out next year. This is, if you don't know the character Shazam, it's basically another Superman type equivalent. Very similar powers and vulnerability, flight, except his powers are magic based. And the character of Shazam is, while he looks like an adult, is actually a child. So it's big. It's Tom Hanks big, except with superpowers.
And can he switch back and forth?
He does, by just saying the magic word, saying the wizard's name.
You're not going to say it?
Shazam.
Right. I don't know. This looks like a Jonah Hill movie. It looks funny, which is something I have not seen from DC films.
The casting in this was excellent because Zachary Levi can pull off that sort of charming aw shucks kind of.
The aw shucks is important. The cheeks, right? The dimples.
This is the adult Shazam. Is that who you mean? Right on.
But you know what sold me on this trailer? There was a moment I was very skeptical of this movie coming in just because it's a ridiculous character. How is he going to translate to screen? What sold me is they're doing in the trailer. His friend is shooting video of him testing out his superpowers, and it starts doing the flossy, and I was like, all right.
The Fortnite dance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a easy hit for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think if that's the spirit of this movie, yeah, I'm sold too.
I like the fact you comic book nerds typically don't like these origin stories. I like them because it fills me in on what I don't know. Are you guys okay with it being the origin of Shazam?
Yeah, because what other story? There's no other great iconic Shazam story except in Kingdom Come, which is dark and dark and dark.
This isn't Superman, right? Like where everyone is walking into the theater knowing who he is, or Batman,
right?
Where the origin story has been told like 7 times in the past 10 years.
Well, the fun thing about this, and I don't know if it's teased that in the trailer, is that Shazam, the idea of one kid becoming a superhero in the comics, it's not just the one kid, Billy Batson. It's a whole family of the Shazam family.
What?
Yeah. So there's a lot of kids who get the wizard's power and grow up. And man, I don't know if they're going to jump in. I think they are.
I don't think so. Oh, you mean for future films?
I know. I think for this film.
Really?
I think we're going to see a lot.
It just seems like a
lot
weird
of the Marvel
choice.
family, the Shazam Marvel family. Other trailers. What I thought was the best trailer released at Comic-Con, movie trailer, was Godzilla King of the Monsters.
What about this trailer did you like so much?
I love how little of two things.
What is not to like?
How little of the monsters were shown, but like how many of the monsters that you got a sense of, and the way with the scoring of using this choral version of Claire de Lune was freaking brilliant.
It is brilliant,
and it's when they're when they're singing Claire de Lune, like evoking like Japanese movies, and the awe of these monsters. I can't wait to watch this trailer in like a Dolby Cinema.
That's exactly it. This needs to be seen in a cinema.
Did everybody know that 11 was in this movie?
I think it was announced, her casting.
Beforehand.
Yeah.
Because she's the first thing that you see.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's
the
exciting.
Actress.
Yeah.
Not the character.
But you don't know. You don't know what movie this is when you see
Weird
the trailer.
crossover.
She has hair.
Are they making it a Stranger Things movie?
Well, it is a crossover because this is the Warner Brothers. The Godzilla that came out was 5 years ago. This is set 5 years after that.
Oh, it's the same storyline?
Same
Really?
storyline. The Gareth Edwards Godzilla that was set in San Francisco. And if you remember from that film, Ken Watanabe and the people at Monarch, they find out that Godzilla is a force of nature, not really a villain. And the way they set up in the storyline is that Godzilla brings balance to these monsters come out occasionally, and that you need the hero monster Godzilla to bring balance to the monster world and to fight the other monsters. And it seems like from this trailer they're taking a little more of an environmentalist bent, and it's like they need to awaken all the monsters to bring balance to the global climate and ecosystem.
Oh, really?
Something. That's kind of what I always took away from
I
it.
felt like Godzilla had to bring balance to all the monsters. Like, it's going crazy, so now they got to get Godzilla up.
Well, they have.
This is really killing my excitement for the movie. All this climate change talk.
He's the chosen one.
They also have Ghidorah, the three-headed beast, which is if King Ghidorah, and the tagline is "Long live the King." So the question is, are they talking about King Ghidorah, or are they talking about Godzilla?
Right.
When you have "Long live the King," and
they're talking
here's
about
the
Godzilla.
Here's the other
It's
speculation.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters, not Godzilla and the King of the Monsters.
And the "Long live the King" is spoken by the King.
Well, Lord Tyrion from.
Well, I guess he's the hand.
Right, from Game of Thrones.
Right.
And here's the extra speculations. This is a shared universe between the King Kong movie that came out 2 years ago, Kong Skull Island. Did you know that? And the character that Tom Hiddleston played in that film, which was set during the Vietnam War era 30 years ago, the speculation is that what you see, the actor that says "Long live the King" in Game of Thrones, he is playing the Tom Hiddleston character 30 years later in modern day. So he's the thread. And when he says "Long live the King," what he's actually referring to is off-screen King Kong cameo. And that King Kong will be the last monster revealed in this film.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure.
Long live, because he's the only one who's seen King Kong.
How about that?
I'm excited about this film.
It looks beautiful.
It looks amazing.
I can't
was sold at Mothra. Come on.
See, I'm not sold on any monster movie. Just I like monster movies I can believe in. Like, for some reason, they came from outer space or they were beneath the ground the whole time. I want to suspend my disbelief.
They were beneath underground the whole time, dormant.
This is not a good thread for you to pull on because
You know how much ocean there is?
I can't get on board with this stuff. I want to believe, but I can't.
But a sword made out of a laser that can cut people's arms off.
Hey, that was a long time
you're
ago.
into that.
It's a
In
long
a
time
galaxy
ago.
far, far
It's
away.
not even this planet.
not even this galaxy. Two more movies I'll talk about. One is Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's next movie. And it's very difficult to talk about this film without the reveal, the conceit, we'll call it, the conceit of the film.
Don't you think the trailers are everything in the trailer is supposed to be public knowledge?
So what is the statute of limitations for the premise?
I'm a big believer. It's in the trailer. Like, let's talk about it.
All right, so Split came out last year, right? Year and a half ago.
What's Split?
Split was the last movie he did with James McAvoy about the multiple personality disorder, the demon, the beast, who was in James McAvoy, and the twist at the end of that film was it was a straightforward thriller, supernatural thriller, and the twist at the end was that it was in the same universe as Unbreakable, that you had Bruce Willis's character watching a TV screen, watching at the end of the movie, wearing his hood, watching the events of that film. And so the tease up this film Glass, which is a sequel to Unbreakable with Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis and James McAvoy, and you have the forces of good and the forces of evil, the mythological forces that were posited in the original Unbreakable coming together. Superheroes brought forth into the real world.
So there's a lot of excitement about this like combined universe coming together. How many times have we watched an M. Night Shyamalan trailer and been like, that movie looks good, and then we went and saw the movie?
I'm pumped for this. I'm so excited for this.
There's not a good track record going into this.
I think Unbreakable is many people's favorite of his films, mine included.
The Sixth Sense is his best film.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
not
say
even
best.
a question.
I said favorite, and and you could. What year did Unbreakable come out? That had to be like 99.
Sounds about right. I watched Unbreakable because everyone was flipping out about it, and I'm not
2000.
crazy about it. I don't understand the appeal, like, that it's an amazing movie. I like Bruce Willis, but I wasn't thrilled by the film.
Here's the meta story for Unbreakable. Unbreakable came out in 2000, right at the birth of the pop culture comic book age, right? The modern pop culture is before Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man broke all records, and before we had a wave of unending superhero films. And Unbreakable was a comic book superhero film taken seriously, without an original story, without being. It was a film that revered the mythos of comic books, and I would say truer to comic book fandom than many of the films that have come out since. And for this to bookend that, now that we are 18 years later and the world is, under the weight of all these comic book films, and to tell the other side of that story and to bookend that, I'm super excited.
All right, it's a good pitch.
Nope. It's like, I haven't seen a good film by this director in 15 years.
Yep.
All right. Last trailer we'll talk about is from Robert Rodriguez, produced by James Cameron, Alita Battle Angel, based on the manga Battle Angel Alita. Did you watch this trailer? This is the second trailer. The first one, actually, the teaser came out back in December. A lot of controversy with the first trailer because of the portrayal of the main character, Alita, who is a robot, but is the only character in the film with giant manga-style eyes. Mm-hmm. And it looks very true to how she was drawn in the comic books, but the other actors don't have their giant manga eyes. The new trailer, I think, looks a lot better, sets up the world a lot more. Fans of the manga are going to be waiting for the one world-building conceit that was in the manga that may be brought up in this or not. And so I'm really excited for this. James Cameron wanted to make this film, but because of the success of Avatar, he's jumping onto that. So
he's producing it, though,
yep,
right?
He's producing it.
I've always liked these kinds of stories, like Fish Out of Water, like lone robot growing up in a harsh environment, trying to be human. All of those elements are part of the original manga. And there's a big conceit we don't want to spoil because I don't think it's in the trailer.
It's not in the trailer. Yeah. It looks amazing. And there's some people have compared screenshots from the first teaser 8 months ago to the exact same shots to the trailer released this past week. And you can tell they refined the CG or the hair, the skin texture. They didn't really change the eyes, but I think they shifted lighting a little bit to de-emphasize some of the her eyes in the shots, and it just looks better overall.
What's his name?
Christoph Waltz.
I love everything he does, so I'll see this.
All right.
Yep.
TV show-wise, we had the first full trailer for Disenchantment on Netflix. This is Matt Groening's fantasy-based show.
Were you guys as happy with this as you hoped you would be?
Yes.
Yeah.
I laughed many times out loud. and then when you see that animation style, you buy into that type of humor.
Yeah.
It's like Simpsons humor.
I guess I was hoping for something a little different in terms of the animation style, but I like it. It's fine.
I mean, we'll get it soon, too. August 17th, I think it comes out.
And this is one of those things wow, I have Netflix. I'm going to get all of this in 2 weeks. This is great.
It's great.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I think the only complaint is what Jeremy said, is there are tropes in this that you're like, is that just a green Bart that's parading around as an elf? Is that it does seem a little repetitive, but there is some new characters too, like the demon thing, which is probably going to have a Bender-esque quality to him.
And to be fair, it's a lot more detailed than The Simpsons ever was. And the backgrounds are So many colors, so many details.
I'm really curious from a production standpoint whether there are shortcuts or whether efficiencies were made for this animation for Netflix, or whether it's a full force of that production company that was behind Simpsons Futurama. Because Futurama looks, I think, by far the best because of all those CG buildings and all
late
that details.
Futuramas.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is of that. I hope it is of that scale, of that scope at least.
I wonder how long they're going to be, because when you're going to a Netflix, you're not beholden to the 22-minute anymore.
I think they're 22 minutes. I mean, Glow is 22 minutes. I mean, you're right. Some of the episodes can be longer and shorter,
Yeah.
but I think they also design it for international distribution with ads. So they have to still tied a little bit of that format. Just like how overseas there's Star Trek Discovery on Netflix, and yet here it's on CBS All Access. And speaking of which, Star Trek Discovery Season 2, big trailer for that one.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited for this.
You're excited for a lot.
I like being excited.
How do you contain so much excitement inside yourself?
Well, I'm tempered by other aspects of my life. Star Trek Discovery Season 2. We got a new character, a new captain, Captain Christopher Pike.
New captain, old captain.
New captain, yeah, the oldest captain.
That's right.
And I think they did an amazing job with casting.
He looks like the old
Anson Mount, I think, is the name of the actor who played Black Bolt in the ill-fated Inhumans TV movie. And he's there for all 13 episodes. It will be 2 ships, the Discovery and, spoiler from last season, the USS Enterprise, although no Spock yet. Spock is mentioned as being a plot point and on leave, but we don't actually see Spock. But this is pre-Kirk, and this is the Enterprise in the Discovery universe.
And they're bringing back number 1.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Number 1.
I had no idea. This is all news to me. But apparently, Gene Roddenberry's wife, or at the
Majel
time,
Roddenberry.
girlfriend at the time, Majel Barrett.
Barrett,
right?
Sure, yeah. The voice of the Star Trek computer.
Exactly. And also, Deanna Troy's mom?
Yes.
I had no idea. Why
you didn't know she was Loxana?
No.
What?
It says so right in the credits.
You've been rewatching. You know, it's the funniest in TNG when Loxana Troy interacts with the Star Trek computer, she's talking to herself.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And you know, she unfortunately had passed away also. But before she
2008.
they got her to do the Star Trek computer voice for the J.J. Abrams Star Trek 2009.
I read that.
It's the last time she did it.
So apparently she played a role in the pilot for Star Trek as number 1.
Yes.
Unnamed besides number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And executives said, no, a woman can't play that role. You have to use
bullshit.
Spock instead. And so she ended up playing a doctor.
Yeah. Nurse Chapel.
There you go.
And the character of number 1 is going to be brought back and played by Rebecca Romijn.
Who's that?
Mystique.
No.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Not Jennifer Lawrence, the original Mystique.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's I think on the Magicians or Librarians, one of those sci-fi shows.
Well, I just found that very interesting.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
There's like Star Trek stuff in there for real Trekkies.
They're also going to do these mini short episodes focusing on some of the secondary characters and some of the cameo appearances. Harvey Mudd, who was in the first season, as Rainn Wilson as Harvey Mudd, will have mini episodes. They're calling them short treks, and I think those will still be on the CBS All Access service. But that was a big thing at Comic-Con as well. DC is launching their own subscription service.
No, thank you.
Well,
Nope.
Kishore is excited because
I'm excited
You're
about one
not.
show.
You're not you're gonna get this?
No, I don't think so.
the
But I mean,
DC universe.
I am excited about one show. I mean, so they premiered Teen Titans live action, which it fits in with what they've been doing at the CW.
Edgy, so dark.
It is really weird, and in that it's like a continuation of the Nolan kind of angst.
Mm-hmm. That was
Except, expanded to a bunch of teenage characters.
Oh, teenage dark angst.
This is Deadpool. You're doing.
Yeah.
I get that reference.
And the Robin line that kind of caught social media by storm is said without any sort of real feeling or authenticity.
F Batman.
It was really disappointing.
Oh, so this is not the one you're looking forward to.
No. The thing I'm looking forward to is a show called Young Justice, which is an animated show. And it ran for 2 seasons on Cartoon Network and ended on this massive cliffhanger. and they're bringing it back for season 3 years later. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years since the last season ended. And the whole conceit of this show, it's the younger characters, Robin, Kid Flash, all the proteges of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And because the main characters are so public, they use the kids as sort of like a secret fighting force, because they can go under the radar more than the adults can. And it is one of the best animated shows out there.
Like for the animation or for the storytelling?
Storytelling. It looks like any of the DC animated universe kind of pieces, but the storytelling's really excellent. Even though it features these kids, it goes into these dark places, but also has a lot of fun with it. I'm so incredibly hyped about that show. If you want to watch one animated show, that's the one to go back and revisit.
Holy cow.
All right. Well, one thing I'm also super excited for coming out, I think this fall, is a Blu-ray box set. Kishore, I hope you've pre-ordered this already. It's Batman the Animated Series.
Out in October. I haven't pre-ordered it only because it's all the way
That
out in October.
That is your generation. Like
this is me. Yeah. This is my childhood.
Big time.
Yeah, where you guys grew up with Transformers, I grew up with Batman the Animated Series. Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, the Diniverse, Timverse, we'll call it, because he's just as important. This is remastered, I think, in 1080, right? Including the films, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, and a 60-minute making-of documentary called The Heart of Batman.
This is Mark Hamill as the Joker, right?
Mark Hamill is the Joker. This is Mr. Freeze, Heart of Ice. This is On Leather Wings. This is
drawn on dark paper.
Beware the Gray Ghost.
Beware the Gray Ghost.
Norm's favorite.
Yes.
Was it an episode?
The episode, Beware the Gray Ghost. Have I ever told you about Beware the Gray Ghost?
I don't know.
Get this. This is the premise. All right. Batman, a series of crimes happening in Gotham City. And Batman realizes that these series of crimes are mirroring the crimes that happen in his favorite TV show, serial radio show.
Bruce Wayne is listening to a radio show?
When he's a kid.
Because this is Art Deco,
Gotcha,
right?
yeah.
When his favorite as a kid, he was a fan of a TV show called The Gray Ghost. And The Gray Ghost was like a shadow type superhero, radio superhero, that influenced him and gave him the inspiration to become the Batman. And then he seeks out the help of the actor who plays the Gray Ghost, because the actor is the only one left who has all the tapes. And that actor is played by Adam West.
Oh, wow. That's good stuff right there. Real fan stuff.
Heart of Ice might be the best 20-minute experience in an animated form ever created.
So they listen to the tapes and they find out what's going to happen in the future?
Find out what's happened, and then they go out and
there's toys, there's everything.
And at the end, the Gray Ghost is brought back, and the actor is doing a signing of the VHSs, and Bruce Wayne walks up and goes, the Gray Ghost is my hero growing up. It still is.
That's good.
It's Batman's hero.
Batman the Animated Series is so good.
Norm's about to cry.
I am.
Now.
It was powerful.
Heart of Ice, almost got him. Also a great episode.
And speaking of Heart of Ice, one thing that in terms of collectibles that happened at Comic-Con, Mondo showed off their Mr. Freeze Heart of Ice collectible, which looks so good.
Norm literally cost me $180.
I know, including shipping.
He puts up this video at the Mondo booth, and then I'm just kind of like watching it in the background, like I sometimes do with tested videos. And then like he walks over the Mr. Freeze thing, and like you could see me in my house like double take over to my TV and be like, okay. And I just got out my phone and bought it right away. I pre-ordered it. It looks incredible.
That was pretty much that was one thing I pre-ordered at Comic-Con. Didn't buy a lot of stuff this year. Bought some small gifts for friends. One thing I bought as a collectible, NECA had a Guillermo del Toro action figure. It's a director series where they're going to release in the future other characters from his films. Not like a whole line, but like from one character from Pan's Labyrinth and one from Hellboy. And so you can have Guillermo sitting in a chair in the middle surrounded by his creations.
Okay.
That's real weird.
Comic-Con's always a place where you see like these, $500, $1,000 collectibles, and I can never afford them, but I treat it like a sculpture garden. Like, this is the one place where I can put my hand behind my back, grab a camera, and just enjoy the paint masters, the best these collectibles will ever look. The first time you're seeing them, yes, behind some plexi, but for 5 days, I get to appreciate the artistry that goes into them.
Are you publishing a series of photos like you have in years past?
I'll put some on Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Cool.
All right, let's go to video games and consoles. Just breaking news this morning, rumors really, about Microsoft's next Xbox. And there could be two of them.
Cloud-based. So that's the rumors, that they're building out a cloud-based infrastructure to service basically a terminal, which is going to be the next Xbox. You'll stream your game from the cloud.
So this is the promise that OnLive had
Exactly.
a decade ago, that PlayStation invested heavily in a streaming service. They bought a company that did the exact same thing and has a version of that. NVIDIA's done a lot to try to make this happen as well.
The computational capabilities of the terminal you have at home, your Xbox, will not be very strong. It'll be fairly light.
Well, it's
and
like a Steam box.
You would think inexpensive.
So this is really on the strength of the hopes that bandwidth is going to be strong enough nationwide, worldwide, to support the streaming service.
And latency.
More importantly, the types of games that will be made for this won't require local rendering. If it's the future, so be it. I will always prefer locally rendered graphics.
You're always bound by the speed of light, even if the computational capabilities are infinite. And there's going to be a noticeable delay sometimes. When you're playing a shooter, those milliseconds count.
And compression. And details.
You're right.
That's the thing I'm going to hate the most. If I'm watching a cutscene for The Last of Us, I want it to be not something they saved beforehand and played back. And even the ones that you see now in video games, like the pre-rendered cutscenes, are high bit rate, great. But you can tell when it's rendered on 4K HDR or if it's just a video.
That said, if Microsoft says this is definitely working, we can make this happen, that'll be great. A cheap Xbox that's more powerful than the one you have now? Well,
the headlines will always, they'll get the headline, absolutely. Next Xbox, $100, whatever, right? It's all going to be about user experience. And if the user experience turns on them, if people are like, buy it and don't have a great experience, that's a multi-$100 million market, billion-dollar market that they are that they're putting at risk. So what's the story with the two devices? Is there still going to be one potentially that will do local rendering or partially local rendering?
I didn't know about the second device. Is that a part of the story? Is that there's a more expensive SKU?
I think that's what I read. I think that would make some sense, or some type of hybrid system. Right?
Well,
some games streamed, some games local,
or maybe portions of games streamed. Like. Maybe it augments the stuff that needs to be real time on top of
for loading time, right? Microsoft, the latest Xbox has kind of a dual operating system anyway. You can have one, they have processes running while other processes are running. So yeah, this could be a way to stream maybe not the entire game, but to get over loading screens.
Why a new console at all? Why not just?
Well, this would be technically. Theoretically, could be the final console, right? If it's streaming.
No, but I'm sure if it has limited compute, I'm sure the current Xbox One has enough compute, and you just use that to
because they need to sell more consoles.
Be a client. I don't know if they do. This sounds like they're moving towards a different kind of revenue model.
So it would just be the back end, and like the announcement is, you bought an Xbox One. Guess what? You already have the next Xbox.
Exactly.
That's not as exciting though. People want.
I don't know.
People want to pay for new games, yes, but they also want a new box experience.
It's interesting that Microsoft would have control over the entire data stream. Like, they could then put advertising on top of a game if they wanted to.
Oh, I'm sure some executive has thought about it.
I see you're having trouble killing this enemy.
How much part of your field of view? We've tested 85% of the user's field of view can be can be filled with ads without the compromising the
This is
gameplay experience.
A Ready Player One fan right there.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah. I've seen the movie recently. Very interesting. Excuse me. Amazon has an update to their Echoes, their speaker systems.
It's all about that bass.
And it is an equalizer.
That's right. So you can now say, Echo, turn up the bass, and she will do that. You can say, lower the treble, and she'll do that too. And it will stay that way for everything that you listen to until you say, Echo, reset the equalizer.
How many people actually do that? Adjust, even like your car system, adjust the EQ.
Oh, I hope most people do, because it can sound a lot better. I'm just not sure that the Echo's speaker justifies it.
Well, certainly on the spot, it does not. Or like
Right,
or the dot, right?
No,
like those small devices,
exactly.
it makes no sense.
But even the nicest one is still nowhere near as good as like the Apple one or a car stereo.
No, but I mean, I think the use cases, like the rooms those are in, like kitchens oftentimes, living rooms, like it's a reasonable feature to add.
It's free. Like they're doing it with software, so it's there. If you're an audiophile and you want to do it, it's there. They're adding cool features.
Do you adjust your EQ settings? Is it per room basis? Or
just in my car I do, and if I had a home stereo, I probably would. I don't have.
Why
that
isn't it
anymore.
optimized in your car already? Like, what is its personal preference? You want more bass.
I guess
Type
so.
of music you listen to.
I don't think car manufacturers care. Like I think that they outsource the audio manufacturing to another company, and then they do their, like, whoever it is, Bose or whoever, they do their best job, and then it's brought in, and there's a miscommunication
Not
about.
tuned?
I just don't feel like it ever is. I don't know. I'd be curious about that process, and I'm sure some manufacturers do a better job than others.
You gotta pay the premium. The premium is the tuning. That's why you get the better speaker
I'm
system.
happy to tune myself, you know. But yeah, my favorite Amazon Echo feature to this date is play the song that goes, followed by any lyric from the song, and it does it. If you don't know about that feature, try it. It's fun.
A little bit of a downer news. A company that we've been following for a little bit now. We've actually built their products before. PrinterBot has shut down. We saw them just this year at Maker Faire, but they announced a few weeks ago, put up on their page that PrinterBot is closed. Low sales led to hard decisions. They'll be forever grateful to the people they met and served. But that's all the detail.
It came out of nowhere too. Like, we didn't have any hints that this was that they were in trouble, right?
My first 3D printer was PrinterBot Simple. Based on your build, Norm, you and Will, you spent a day or so building a PrinterBot Simple, walking, and I said, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I have this video to refer to as assistance, because building a printer is, kind of daunting. And I loved that printer, and then I bought a second PrinterBot, moved on to the Prusa since then, but, I got nothing but love for PrinterBot. I'll be sad to see them go. They were a local company. They were right out here in California.
I wonder do you think this is heralding more issues in the 3D printing industry?
I mean, you got to keep up, and I don't feel they were innovating in interesting ways. They were working on a infinite Z design where it was like a conveyor belt and it would keep going, but the print head was at a 45-degree angle.
Right.
And so it could keep printing forever.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure that's something that had a market,
I mean, maybe it talks about the maturity of the 3D printing, home 3D printing market, right? There's so many big established companies that work at scale, and it's tough to make that business. I mean, it's very different than 5 years ago when we saw 3D printing company startups like pop up because people were really curious about it, and not everyone had a 3D printer, but now a bunch of people already have one or already know that if they're going to get one, they want to get, an SLA or they want to get a Prusa.
Yep. Yeah, maybe that's part of it, is that there's more awareness now. And there's more with forums. You can find out what people are using. Lunar eclipse this week. Oh, my gosh. This is a big deal, except we're not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, one of the largest lunar eclipses in the last, few years. I think in the last decade, maybe. It's happening. This is where the moon turns blood red.
It says it's the longest total lunar eclipse of the 21st century.
Well, that's only 18 years.
Yeah, but still, it sounds cool.
Yeah, it does sound cool. Won't be visible to us because it's going to be during daylight hours here. I think it's around 1 o'clock local time that the lunar eclipse hits. So all the light from the sun is going to obscure the reddening. But if you live out in Asia or the Middle East, you
Parts
should
of
be able
Africa.
yes, you should be able to have a really great view of a red sun that is turning red because someone is angry.
A red moon.
Godzilla is angry.
See, I can't buy that.
What? That Godzilla can create a red moon?
You lose me with the Godzilla thing.
But you believe the blood moon brings back the dead in Hyrule.
Oh, yeah. That's a game, man. That's the high bar for $60.
And then finally, a Kickstarter launching this week was a product that I got to check out. It was actually Maker Faire, and they came by our offices, but the Looking Glass Factory has a new product called the Looking Glass. And it's a hybrid volumetric light field display that sits on your desktop and lets you display 3D models that you can view at many angles.
So is their Kickstarter live?
Yeah, their Kickstarter is live. It's $400 today. Unfortunately, I think that price point's only for the first day, so by the time you listen to this, they'll have bumped it up. But we have a video on the site, so you can check out the video.
They've already hit their goal as of Tuesday when we're recording this.
Wow.
Who is the market for this product?
They say it's, I think it's 3D modelers who maybe, I don't really think so. People working maybe in animation or 3D modeling who want a way to see a 3D model and look around it without having to put on a headset. But I think really locations, museums, I think it's a really interesting display for because it works well in daylight. It works well indoors. It's not big. It can kind of be embedded in a wall, and I really can't wait to see this like just in the real world.
They've been experimenting with different techniques to display 3D, and they finally landed here. They're innovators. Is that all we're doing here? Yeah, you got something.
I think that's it. I think that's it for technology news. Before we move on to our next segment, I want to thank the other sponsor of this week's episode, and that is Stitcher Premium. If you're looking for a new podcast that combines your passion of comedy and music? If you are, you should check out The Supergroup. On each episode of The Supergroup, the hosts invite a comedian and musician to write and record an original song with them over the course of a week. Then you'll hear every step of the process, from writing to rewriting to recording and mixing, songs from Paul F. Tompkins, Janet Varney, Ted Leo, and more. The podcast is funny and the songs are legit. Listen to The Supergroup only on Stitcher Premium. And if you go to stitcherpremium.com/supergroup and use the promo code TEST, you can get a free month of Stitcher Premium, and it helps support us and lets us keep making this podcast. The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week. And for VR, are we talking about a game?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
I
think the embargo is up.
It will be.
It will be by the time you listen to this. But we've been playing Marvel Heroes United.
Yeah, Marvel VR.
Marvel VR, Heroes United.
This is a big game coming out of Oculus Studios. It's a $40 game. 18 Marvel heroes to choose from. So it's not just the Avengers, right? It's like all over the map. You got the X-Men. You've got some Avengers, but not all of them. And some people I've never even heard of. And you can choose any of them. You don't have to unlock them. You can play it as anyone that you want to. You are matched with 3 other people, and they can be your friends, or they can be randos, or they can be AIs. And then you guys all go into a world that you choose, and you have a combat experience. This is the modern VR equivalent of the classic Brawler, the old X-Men, Simpsons, Ninja Turtles,
yep.
4-player brawler games that were an evolution of Gauntlet or Double Dragon. This is now the VR equivalent of that. It is you jump into this space and it's combat. That's it. It's combat in one environment for a period of time until you hope to make it to the end, during which you will fight a bunch of little baddies, and you'll fight at maybe a couple bosses. And I understand if you do well enough, you can actually fight 3 bosses. And if you, sometimes you lose and sometimes you win.
So a lot of heroes, a lot of locations, You played through all the heroes. We'll talk about it in this week's projections as well. The heroes are different. There's kind of like their classes in terms of projectiles based and different scales, because you play as big as the Hulk, as small as Rocket, Raccoon. And then the levels are, even though they're visually different and structurally different, of course, there's the same objectives, very similar, right? You got to defend this area. You got to collect certain things, power nodes, and bring them back. And then, like you said, mini bosses pop up. But it's really about point collecting. It's a game, when you think about it, it's less about, it's a button mashing, point collecting. Let's team up to beat this mission together with 4 people, and see who can get the most points.
That's right. Every time you hit somebody, points fly out of their head. It's very arcadey.
The strength of the game is the variety of the characters and the variety of the weapon styles amongst them. While there might be a bunch of classes that are similar, because you're inhabiting the character in VR, they still feel a little different. So even though there's a bunch of characters that shoot projectiles when I'm Rocket, because I'm scaled down and I have to actually grab the gun out of my holster, it feels a little different than when I'm, a different projectile character.
Yeah.
And they all have different sort of superpowers, special powers that you have to power up to. I really thoroughly enjoyed the variety of stuff.
I totally agree with that. I think that is the biggest selling point of the game, because the gameplay itself is repetitive. You're doing the same thing. Like, they're throwing random bosses at you every time you go to a level. You don't know which boss you're going to get. Maybe it's Loki, maybe it's Ultron, but they're all kind of the same. Like, they're all powerful and they take a lot of damage, and you have to run away when they use their superpower to get outside their area of effect, and then go back into their area and fight them some more. But it's kind of repetitive in the same way that those old brawlers were, and they were popular games. So this is a gameplay loop that works.
Well, I would say, at least for the old brawlers, because the levels were flat, right? Like, it was easy for them to generate new levels, right? Like, here the levels, they're designed, and there's geometry in them, and they look different. We've only played a handful of them. Are they different enough to keep it interesting, the levels themselves?
They look different, but they're the same. Like, they're all like the 3-story level.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the levels are what keep the game interesting. I think it's experimenting with the different heroes and finding which one you like. And the good thing is, they're all a little bit fun, and a good half of them are really fun.
Yeah.
There was a point where I was playing as the Hulk, and I just started giggling because I was embodying that character so much. Because as the Hulk, you don't have guns. You're just smashing stuff, and you're swinging your hands together and hitting the ground. And when you unlock that superpower, it's just hilarious because you're just acting like a crazy monkey, and you're bouncing all over the place.
Norm was Black Bolt last night and didn't talk throughout that level. He played as Black Bolt, just being in character.
Except when I used my superpower, the Sonic Scream.
I need help.
I was Rocket, and I would try to spin around, just shooting my guns in every direction indiscriminately. It is a lot of fun to inhabit the characters, and it does feel good to inhabit the characters. It looks good, the way your hands are positioned. I like the mechanic when you tilt your hands a certain way, you can actually see a ghost of the controller pop up, so you can see where your controls are.
Yeah. There are some characters that I enjoy more than others, but I think everyone will find that. There's some similarities. You'll find that some characters use the same gestures to do the same kind of power, but overall, I'd say it's a pretty decent game.
We haven't gotten to the point where there's a big baddie. This guy Thanos.
Well, that's no secret. Like, you have to collect these cubes by killing bosses. I think 25. And once you do that, once one person in your group has done that, you can fight Thanos.
That's like 12 missions you play.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
a lot.
It
is a lot.
Wow.
And I understand from talking to the devs that you get one shot at
if
fighting
you fail,
Thanos.
that's it. You have to go back and play 25 again.
Yeah.
That feels like a strange progression.
And I would hope that the challenge of Thanos is more in speaking in terms of strategy than the other mini bosses.
I think you have to be. If you've beat 25 mini boxes to get there, you better be pretty good.
I don't just want a higher number of hit points. You know, I want strategy. I want to have to work together.
That's the thing. I think the strategy element isn't really there, at least from what I've seen.
I'm with you on
like
that.
the spawning is all in the same place. Like you can just kind of farm enemies.
Yeah.
Just by watching where they spawn, because the AI isn't terribly great. And really, the fun of it comes from the embodying and what you bring to the characters as well, and playing along with these powers.
They try to encourage you to work together by doing combos. So if I freeze an enemy as some freeze guy, and you then shatter him, we get combo points.
Right.
But that's the only incentive. I wish that we had to work together to kill the bad guys.
Oh yeah. Maybe it's higher difficulty. It scales up. I mean, it's really easy to get into. Like this, I think they intentionally designed it, unlocked all the characters to start, so that you could jump in and not feel like you need to play for 3 hours to get the full experience.
30 seconds in, I was having about as good of an experience I've had in VR like that quickly. And then, like you said, it kind of crests down because it gets repetitive. If they added on to this, where there was different styles of levels instead of just defend, which is all we played,
or maybe like a progression, like a campaign of some kind.
Exactly. I think that this could be a really massive hit.
Or fewer enemies and make them tougher.
Yeah, I just wish there was more required strategic-wise to defeat them.
Yeah, if you think about in the comics of an Infinity War, the heroes are all there, but they're sneaking around. It's not just like not always just a massive scene. Have that once in a while with a ton of enemies on screen, but give us somewhere between the mini bosses and the fodder, and more of those. Any other bits of VR news? Things we want to talk about?
I don't know. Do you guys know about these other two things here? I don't know. I didn't put these in the show notes.
What do we got? Nah. Let's skip it.
Okay.
I think, that will do it for this week's episode, because we had science earlier, and that slushy really went through me really quickly. We'll be back next week. Jeremy, have a good time at Pinburgh.
I can't wait, brother.
You should definitely come to California Extreme if you live in the Northern California area, because it's going to be amazing.
Saturday is when I'll be there.
Is Saturday the day people should come?
Yes, Saturday is the day that people should come. I think both days will be fun, though. And I think we'll talk about Mission Impossible next week, because I'm super pumped to see that.
The mustache that ruined a whole universe.
No. Henry Cavill's mustache. All right, we have an outro, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is from Justin, a.k.a. Speed.
Let's do it.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Those games that give those kids a false sense of achievement.
Yeah, and then I was like, "You're not even drifted." let's get. Sorry for all the slurpy noise, but they're addictive.
This looks so gross.
I don't think
that looks awful.
Addictive is actually a word. I think addicting is what you're looking for.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.